Under the bright lights of the Grand Theater, the audience waited for the curtain to rise. Everyone knew tonight's show would be unforgettable, but no one imagined the drama that would unfold behind the scenes. In the world of ballet, grace and discipline hide sharp rivalries and fragile egos. At the center of this story was Isabella, a famous ballerina loved by critics and envied by her peers. She was known not only for her flawless performances, but also for her icy attitude toward anyone she thought was beneath her dot on the night of the biggest show of her life. Isabella spotted a simple woman sweeping the dusty backstage floor. Her name was Clara, a quiet stagehand who spent her days in the shadows, making sure the stage shone for stars like Isabella. But Isabella didn't see Clara as a person only, as someone to command. With a flick of her hand and a cold stare, Isabella forced Clara to kneel and tie her satin ballet shoes right there in front of the younger dancers. Some turned away in shame, but no one dared speak up. Clara's hands trembled as she tightened the ribbons, her head bowed low. No one knew that this small act of humiliation would change everything. As the final rehearsal began, whispers spread among the company. Something about Clara's past came to light, a secret that not even Isabella could have imagined. The directors started watching Clara more closely, noticing a spark in her eyes that had been hidden for years. When the night of the performance arrived, the audience expected to see Isabella in the spotlight, dancing the lead role she believed belonged only to her. But when the curtain finally rose, a stunned silence fell over the crowd. Clara stepped forward instead, and what happened next left everyone speechless. No one in the audience knew who Clara was. They leaned forward in their seats, whispering to each other. Confused faces turned to the stage manager in the wings. The orchestra paused for a heartbeat, waiting for a sign to begin again. Backstage, Isabella stood frozen, her heart pounding louder than the music that was supposed to carry her across the stage. She couldn't believe it. How could a simple stagehand be standing where she belonged? Clara felt the hot stage lights on her face, her breath tight in her chest. She had spent years behind those velvet curtains, mending costumes, sweeping floors, making sure the stars never stumbled. But what nobody saw was how, late at night when the theater was empty, Clara would slip on worn-out ballet shoes and dance alone on the same stage she cleaned. Her mother had once been a ballerina too, a rising star, until an accident stole her dream. Clara promised herself she would never dance again, choosing a life behind the scenes instead. But deep down, the music never left her bones. When the director learned that Clara once trained under a famous ballet master, they saw a chance to revive the show with fresh passion. Whispers of Isabella's cruel behavior had already reached the top. Some dancers had complained quietly for years, but no one dared stand against her until Clara tied those shoes and showed the director what she could do. As Clara took her first graceful step, the audience held its breath. Isabella's eyes burned with anger and disbelief. She knew she couldn't stop the show now. All she could do was watch as the woman she had humiliated stole every eye in the theater. And while Clara danced, a question lingered in everyone's mind. Would she be strong enough to hold the spotlight that Isabella believed belonged only to her? Behind the curtains, the other dancers exchanged uneasy glances. Some of them had spent years under Isabella's sharp tongue and impossible demands. She was the star everyone feared but secretly resented. Now, watching Clara glide across the stage with a raw, honest grace, a few felt a spark of hope they hadn't dared dream of. Maybe someone humble and kind could shine brighter than a cold-hearted diva, but not everyone backstage welcomed this sudden change. Marco, the ambitious assistant choreographer who owed his promotion to Isabella's influence, fumed in the shadows. He had always bet his future on Isabella staying untouchable. If Clara replaced her for good, what would happen to his own power? Marco pulled aside one of the younger dancers, Nina, whose wide eyes darted between Clara and Isabella. He whispered harshly that they needed to remind the directors who really deserved the lead. Nina nodded, though her hands trembled. She had seen Isabella destroy people's dreams before and didn't want to be next. Out on stage, Clara felt the weight of every eye watching her. The dance steps came back like old friends, her body remembering every spin. Every leap her mother had taught her before life turned cruel. But doubt crept in too. She wasn't wearing the finest costume. She hadn't trained in years like Isabella. She could hear Marco's muffled whispers from the wings and sensed the jealous stares from dancers, who feared being replaced to Dot in the audience. The director leaned forward, eyes locked on Clara's every move. He knew the ballet world loved perfection but needed a story, even more a story of a hidden talent rising from the shadows. But he also knew Isabella wouldn't give up without a fight. As Clara twirled under the spotlight, somewhere backstage, Isabella's plan to reclaim what she lost was already taking shape. The music swelled to its highest note as Clara lifted herself onto her toes, arms reaching out as if she were grasping a dream she'd hidden for too long. The audience was spellbound. Breaths held as her feet skimmed the stage like whispers. Even dancers who had doubted her talent now watched from the wings, wide-eyed at the raw emotion she poured into every step. But not everyone was moved by her courage. Isabella, standing just behind the curtain, dug her nails into her palm. She had worked too hard, clawed her way to the top of the ballet world, to be replaced by a nobody in second-hand shoes. Marco slipped closer to Isabella, his voice low. He reminded her of everything at stake: her reputation, his future, their influence over the entire company. If Clara took the lead role for good, their hold on the theater would crumble. Isabella's eyes flashed with cold determination. She whispered that tonight wasn't over yet. Out on stage, Clara felt the sudden shift in the air, the prickle of unseen eyes filled with envy. As she prepared for her final sequence, she caught a glimpse of Nina in the wings, fidgeting nervously. With a prop near the stage entrance, Clara's heartbeat stumbled. She knew too well how easily a tiny misstep could ruin an entire performance. She had no doubt Isabella would do anything to push her down. The director sat on the edge of his seat, sensing that something was wrong but unable to stop the show. Now, the orchestra reached its crescendo. Clara gathered her courage, her mother's voice echoing in her mind, urging her to finish what she started. Backstage, Isabella gave Marco a slight nod. Nina's hands shook as she moved closer to the stage. The audience watched, unaware of the storm building just out of sight, waiting for the moment when everything would either fall apart or be reborn in a way no one could predict. Clara felt her chest tighten as she landed her final spin, her eyes catching Nina's uneasy figure hovering too close to the stage edge. The crowd saw only the magic, but Clara sensed danger in the shadows. She tried to focus on the music, but the rustle of hurried whispers backstage kept breaking her concentration. Nina's trembling hands gripped a length of ribbon meant for a quick costume change later. But Marco's quiet threats echoed in her mind. If Clara finished this dance perfectly, Isabella would be ruined, and Nina's place in the company would be next. Nina's heart raced as she glanced at Isabella, who gave her a cold, expectant stare that froze her to the spot. Clara glided closer to the wing where Nina waited. She had no idea what they planned, but instinct told her to stay steady. Just then, a sudden flicker of stage light blinded her for half a second. The old spotlight, never meant to move mid-performance, swung dangerously above her head. Someone backstage had loosened the rigging. No one would suspect sabotage if an old light fell during a high-energy performance. The director noticed the light swaying but couldn't signal the crew without stopping the entire show. His fingers drummed nervously on his chair. He'd bet everything on Clairon, the story of a hidden ballerina rising from the shadows to dethrone a cruel star. If anything happened now, his reputation would shatter along with Clara's chance. Clara, unaware of the light above, took her mark for the final lift. She could see the audience leaning in, drawn to her every move. Isabella stepped deeper into the shadows, eyes locked on Clara, her lips curled in a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And just as Clara bent her knees to leap, the loose light above her groaned on its rusted hinge, ready to drop at the worst possible moment. The audience gasped, but Clara had no idea her final moment on stage might not end with applause, but with a shocking fall no one would ever forget. Clara felt the roar of the music beneath her feet as she rose for her final leap. Unaware of the danger creaking above, the spotlight's loose hinge gave a sharp metallic snap that echoed through the rafters. In the wings, Nina's eyes widened with horror. This was not what she wanted. She dropped the ribbon and darted forward, shouting Clara's name. The audience gasped as the light broke free and fell, spinning straight toward the stage. Clara turned midair, seeing the falling shape too late to dodge. But Nina, acting on pure instinct, lunged out and pushed Clara just in time. The spotlight crashed behind them with a thunderous crack, sparks and glass scattering across the stage. The orchestra stopped on a strangled note. Clara hit the floor hard. B.